You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Iron Lady sings and that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you as harshly as the rest of your family and all that good stuff. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today, we had an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about our insights and everything else, and his book called Eat or Be Eaten, out August 20th, 2024. Rick, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Just Rick Bein. It's just one way to get there. And then people do that. I don't actually know the exact
Okay. So they can Google it or look for a link on the Chris Voss Show.
And you can look that. Also, I have you can Google Traveling Farmer. Is another website that I have.
So Traveling Farmer, is that travelingfarmer.com or? No,
just Traveling Farmer. And when you if you Google it, it comes up. It's okay. But there's also, within that is a Eat or Be Eaten.
Eat or Be Eaten what? .com?
No, I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Maybe forget about that Traveling Farmer. Just
yeah. So what we'll do is we'll have a link on the Chris Voss Show post that people can find there to be able to look for that, or you can search for Eat or Be Eaten, out August 20th, 2024. Rick, give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book?
What's the side of what it's about?
Yes.
Okay. Eat or Eaten is about different kinds of foods that I've eaten around the world. I've traveled to many countries. I've lived 12 years in the tropical world, and I have recorded a lot of with photographs, all of the many people where they eat, this sort of thing, and stories about that. And then I've also got times when I was almost eaten. So it's eat. And that's like whatever we're going to eat, and then eaten. I was almost eaten a few times. So
yeah, by eaten by tigers, or lions, or bears, or
one was a lion.
That sounds like a great story.
And then the other was piranhas.
Oh, piranhas! Wow.
And then another was a wolverine. And there's some other things where you get eaten by a botfly. Actually, it lays an egg in you, and you have to get rid of it. But,
oh wow, that doesn't sound fun. That sounds like my first 10 marriages. Anyway, let's get into some of the details here of the book. What prompted you on to write this? What was your motivation behind it?
I had these stories, and been telling them for years, and people says you ought to write those down. And so I did, and pretty soon I had a lot of stories together. And so I said, let's just make it in a book. So that's what I did.
And it says you're a doctor here. Tell us about what sort of degrees do you work in, schooling have you had, and what got you into this adventure that you had that you talk about in the book?
I'm a geographer. I worked through the Indiana University at the Indianapolis campus, and I've been there 45 years. I'm a professor emeritus at the moment, so I am a professor, full professor. I did my degrees at the University of Colorado with a bachelor's degree, and then I did my master's and PhD at the University of Florida. So then I went and worked in other countries.
What was the draw for you to go to other countries?
I had been in the Peace Corps early on, and before I finished college, and I was in Brazil, and I had a wonderful experience, and it sort of taught me something that I can go anywhere in the world as long as they're not shooting.
As long as they're not shooting. There are some places in Africa where you can get shot at, or
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Or like Sudan. I wouldn't want to go back there right now.
Yeah. Was that where were you in Africa mostly, I guess, during this time?
I spent 5 years in Africa. The first time was in the Sudan. That was my first job after graduate school, and I was teaching at the University of Khartoum. And Khartoum is where the Blue Niles come together and form the main Nile.
The Nile, that's a river in Egypt, right? The
Well,
Nile?
yeah, there's no D on it, but anyway, it starts way down in Lake Victoria, down on the equator, and it runs all the way north. That's the White Nile, and the Blue Nile comes in from Ethiopia. It joins in Khartoum, and that's where the university was. But it goes all the way up through the Sahara Desert.
And so, to give us some stories out of the book that we can tease out to people on some of your adventures.
I can talk about some of the ones that sound more gripping, are those when I was almost eaten.
Oh, sure, yeah. People love good eating stories.
Yeah, well, when I was anyway, this was a story when I was in the Peace Corps. I was in a village, interior Brazil, way back up against the Bolivian border, and much of a frontier kind of zone. And they were moving this family out onto this big swamp. They wanted to be there before the rainy season started. And we had a big truck loaded up with furniture and everything, and on top, people were riding on top of all of that. And somebody found a big bottle of rot gut alcohol, Brazilian rum, call it cachaça. And so that they got passed around, and the driver got too much of it, ran off the road, and we had to push it back on. And each time we did, we got a little dirtier and dirtier. Finally got to our destination, and there was a nice little oxbow off the main river over there. And we thought that looked pretty clean, looked nice to get in and clean out. The Brazilians did. They jumped in and got wet, got out and soaped up, jumped in and got the soap off. And this other American and I, we were in the water, we got in and just enjoyed it, and just scrubbing in there and hanging out in there. And we came walking out finally came walking out, this little old man came walking by and said, "You were lucky this time, but men don't swim with piranha without a swimming suit."
Oh, boy.
So that was a very sobering moment.
That'll sober you up, right? That's for sure.
And then as we went that evening, they had us at the ranch house. We talked quite a bit, and they started telling stories about piranhas, and that was really unnerving as well. And that night I couldn't sleep. I was in the hammock with my knees up to my chest and just sort of hardly sleeping at all. And then the next day we went fishing right where we'd been swimming, all right, where we took our bath, and we pulled in dozens of piranha just like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a real knack to catching piranha, though. That's another whole story. But
okay. It's probably, hopefully you had some swim trunks on when you were bathing with the piranha, because you don't want to have any bait out there for them to grab a hold of.
That's right. Well, as it turns out, that I didn't have any swim trunks on. They said men don't swim with piranha without swimming suits on.
Yeah. That's what I also say on Tinder. So
they normally go after bloody things, and we were using calves liver to catch them on hooks. But if you don't have any blood, and if they're not hungry, they probably leave you alone. But if you are, they might grab hold of some of the tender parts of the body. So that's why you don't want to have it. That's why you want to have a swimming suit on.
Yeah, you want to save those tender parts from anything with teeth.
Yeah. But anyway, the story goes on, and I remember I've told that story so many times. But then I remember my son, when he was 6 years old, heard this story. He says, "Dad, you were really lucky when you were in that water with those fish." Yeah. And I said, "Alex, you were the lucky one."
Yeah, because you wouldn't be here if
that's right.
Gotten a hold of anything. I'm not sure what we're talking about.
That's right.
I think people can put the two together. Yeah. So you had these adventures. What, in writing the book, what do you hope people come away with? What do you hope they gain?
Well, they just gain some life experiences. Somebody goes and lives in the tropics and in the different cultures and different places, and how they live. And it's sort of an area. It's kind of a memoir, but it's also it's an adventure stories. And so going out and being out in the wild or whatever. Talked about crazy things that I had to eat. Sometimes.
Really?
I didn't know if I had to or not, but I often thought I did because I would insult my hosts, and so things like termites and
termites.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's probably, they eat a lot of wood, so maybe that's good for fiber then.
Yeah, well, that's right. These are flying termites, not like the ones we have that eat wood.
That makes it safer, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make that much difference, but they fly, and what they do is they'll
fly right in your mouth.
Yeah, they might. No, they don't do that. But they do. There's a big, it's a termite mound, and they dig a big hole in the ground, make a mound over the top of it, and they collect. Anyway, their babies in there, and periodically they swarm, and they come out. And what the locals do now, this is in what's called South Sudan right now, but it's all through East Africa that they do this, and they put a little depression in the ground, maybe 3 inches deep, kind of square hole, and when they put a candle in it, and when they swarm, they fly to the flame, and that burns their wings, and they fall in the little pit, and then you go and collect them, and then they roast them.
And then they roast them.
They put them in a frying pan, turn them, I guess I don't know call it, but just fry them over and get them all crispy, and they're at that point they're real crunchy, and sort of like pretzels at this point.
Okay.
And they're like a half-inch long, and so those are some of the things that they do with it. And then they have all kinds of other dishes they make out of it. So when I ate it, it was like I didn't mean to eat it. I came into this village with one of my students, and he didn't warn me about this. I sat down at a table, and then they walked in there with this bowl, a big heaping bowl, about 12 inches across the bowl, with a big cone of roasted termites sitting in it there. And they put it right in front of me. And I said, "Oh my, what do I do?" And my student says, "Hey, just take a few off the top and put them in your mouth." Well, as soon as I did that, the whole tribe dove into the termites, and it was such delight and such ecstasy in their faces, and they were enjoying these termites unbelievably. And I just started watching them. I kind of forgot when I had something in my mouth. I was going to spit it out, but I accidentally started chewing, and I discovered why they liked it then, because it's salty. They were salty, and in the tropics, you don't have most of the heavy rain in the tropical rainforest. The rain all washes all the salts out of everything, and the termites go down in the ground and pull out minerals and put them in their termites. So they like this. They like to eat them because they get some salt. Otherwise, people are salt starved in these areas. So that was why they did it. So
that's pretty wild. That's pretty amazing. I kind of like pretzels. That's one of the reasons I like pretzels. They're crunchy. They're salty. They don't really seem to do much for you nutrition wise. I mean, imagine there's some sort of nutrition in there somewhere.
Get some carbs
there. But yeah, what an adventurous story. And so, I mean, this is your life's journey. So it took you probably a lot of decades to write this book, I guess.
Yeah, different times. Yeah, some of it's written way back, several decades ago, but some very sort of recent. As I remember these things and I put them together, I find my old notes and see that's there. So the
it's pretty interesting in the life journeys that people go on and stuff. People don't do the Peace Corps like they used to anymore, and I think that for a lot of Americans, I think that has stunted their worldview or their understanding of the world outside of America or their societies and stuff. And I think that's kind of one of the problems where we're having issues with populism now, is because people, the racism and the xenophobia and the anti-Semitism that seems to be rising, that seems to be hitting the news every day in 2025 right now. And I think one of the problems is people they've never been out in the outside world. I remember I hadn't been in the outside world and had been busy running my businesses for, probably 11, 12, 13 years. And then 9/11 hit. And it was kind of an awakening for me, as was for a lot of people. And it made me really question my politics and my positions in life, because I was like, wait, I thought everyone loved America. Why doesn't everyone love America? And then I started trying to understand what was going on in the world. and how the world worked. And then I started finding that there's some probably bad things America's done sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't always been what's right, but doesn't mean you need to blow up our buildings and kill people. But, it's made me start realizing the world and spending more time thinking about the world. And I think people need that experience. They need to go live in other cultures and other environments, and also just to realize how good they have it here as a democracy, or what once was a democracy.
Yeah.
And so people need to do that more. What do you think about more people doing what you did with the Peace Corps?
I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Totally opened my eyes to the world. And once I left there, I knew I could go anywhere in the world, because people are people wherever you go. You just accept them as they are, and love them, and participate in what they do. And I say I'll go anywhere as long as they're not shooting.
Did you have any of that experience when you were there?
Well, not really. I came close one time, and when I was in the Peace Corps, this one drunk that was in the one village, he thought we were communists. And we didn't know that. We didn't know Portuguese well enough at that time to understand what he was saying. And so he pulled his pistol out of his pants and walked us down the street until I guess he was taking us to jail. But we didn't get that far. But we didn't know what he was going to do. He thought he was so drunk he might trip and accidentally shoot us or something.
Yeah, anything can happen. But when a gun's
finally some of the locals saw him, and they stopped him.
Probably knew he was the town drunk.
Yeah. So it was interesting. So he was trying to make amends after a while, but I guess he never got over it. At one point, when I was getting ready to leave, the people told him I was leaving, and I was going to take my revenge. Before I go. So I was having lunch in this restaurant, and as we had a colleague with me, he was actually a Brazilian colleague who I'd been working with for 2 years. We noticed this big crowd out in front of the restaurant there, an open air restaurant, and we didn't know what was going on, but we looked at the far side, and there was this guy. He actually was a butcher. He was a town butcher, and he was standing over there, had 2 pistols, one on each hip, sitting there watching me, and the crowd was jeering him on. I guess they had sort of primed him that that I was coming and going to get in. So they were looking for some action. It's a little boring little town, and they're looking for the shootout between the butcher and the gringo. And, I didn't have a gun, and we never did. It's just that we just sat there and didn't pay any attention. We knew he was there, but we didn't give him attention. And so finally he walked around behind us in the back start of the store, of the restaurant, came in the back door, and then stood behind me for a while. I didn't want to move a hair. And so then he finally went on past us. My colleague offered, come on, have something to eat. And, no, he didn't want to do that. So he went on back across the street and took his post out there.
Wow.
So when we finally left, we went and drove away. And
well, those are the adventures that you have over a lifetime that you survive, and you look back on, you go, I got out of that mess.
Yeah. So, in different kinds, in Sudan, we survived a number of coup attempts.
Really?
And they didn't bother too much. It was usually the military going after politicians. And I was a professor there at the University of Khartoum, and really they didn't bother me there or anybody. They closed the university when they had these coup attempts, because the students were the only place in this country that were allowed to protest, to have a voice.
That's interesting.
And
why did they have it so where the students were the only ones allowed to protest? It's like Mao or something?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, but it was sort of like anybody could have that. Students were supposed to have their own. It's supposed to be an area of liberalism and being able to think and do different things and express your opinions. And so that they did that, but they said you got to keep it on the campus.
Oh, okay.
So they would always, sometimes would just go close the campus, so then lock the students in, and so that was.
Well, so in writing the book, Eat or Be Eaten. When I first heard the title, I thought it was maybe a diet or menu book.
Yeah, some people might think that. Yeah, and in fact, it was put in and originally someone put it in a group of recipes, recipe books. But no, it's definitely there's recipes in there, but there are things like eating not only termites but drinking camel's milk, and there's a number of
camel's milk. Ooh.
Yeah. That's another little story.
What does that taste like?
Well, I did taste it, but I shouldn't have. We were traveling, and I was in with the faculty, another faculty member from the University of Khartoum, and we went off into the Sahel. That's the area of the edge of the Sahara Desert, and there's people, the nomads run their animals through there, and camels and cattle and sheep, and these ran into a camel nomad there. He had his camels that they were grazing and on the bushes, and we drove by there in a Land Rover, and he came running out and stopped us and, "You got any water?" "Yeah." And he said, we got some water out of the big can we had in the back, and he drank, and another glass. He just about 4 glasses straight, just going on and like he's just hadn't had any for a while. "How long has it been since you had some water to drink?" He says, 6 weeks. "Oh, how'd you survive for 6 weeks?"
How do you survive for 6 weeks?
Well, he drank camel's milk. And the camels were getting their water out of these tiny little berries on these bushes, and they'd eat these fruit, the succulent leaves and the berries, and they would get that. That's how they got their water essentially. So in the process, the mother camel made milk. So he would milk the camel, and that's what he had to drink. And he had it in a little bag on his hip there, and he showed it to me. And I said, "Well," so I had to try it, and I didn't really drink it. I stuck my lip, just got it on my lips, and it was so rancid. I didn't go any further than that. But as it turned out, I didn't. I got about. As it turned out, I had about 2 or 3 days there. I was not too comfortable.
I mean, I don't know. How does that work? Do you have to milk? I mean, do you have to keep that refrigerated when it comes out?
No. He just kept it in his little bag, and he'd only take enough that he would need it. Well, it was,
Did you make sure that was from a female camel?
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I doubt very much you'd get it from a male, but
well, that would be something else if it came from a male. I think that's the joke I'm trying to pull here.
Yeah, maybe another kind of liquid. Yeah, but,
that would explain the rancid taste. That's all I know.
That's right. Well, it got a little rancid when he would first milk her. It'd be pretty good, but he put it in the bag and it stayed there long enough. Maybe after a day.
Oh yeah.
Get kind of rancid.
Seems like something you should put in the fridge. I mean, you have to put normal milk in the fridge. I think and both goat and cow. That's checked, but,
well, they wouldn't have any refrigerator around there. This is this is totally out in the bare lands,
Yeah. Well, I suppose this would make it so that you can survive, because I mean, camels can store water for a long time. I guess that hump or whatever they store water.
Yeah. So they can.
Yeah. So you could live in the desert. Maybe that's why camels are so cool for the desert, I guess.
Yeah. They made there's adaptation. It works for them. No.
There you go. Now, on your websites, I know there's one being built for you. We'll have a link to it on the Chris Voss Show. And then there was the other aforementioned website you mentioned for traveling. Do you do any speaking or consulting or go around telling your stories, offer any services that way that we need to plug?
Yeah, I do that. I've done a number of talks at different places, whatever. Mm-hmm. I was as a teacher, I gave a lot of these stories to my students.
Yeah.
So and then I did on the website, I went ahead and told these stories into a YouTube channel. So I have a YouTube channel that I have about 20 some stories there, and some of them are the same as these, but there's 25 stories in what's Eat or Be Eaten. In my website, there's about 30 stories, but let's call the YouTube site. There's about 30 stories, and there's some are the same, some are different, and they're essentially I've spoken. I was speaking into it. I was talking to a camera, and they're available on YouTube. To get it on YouTube, just Google my name and YouTube my name, and it'll come up. And then, so I got the regular YouTube that I have with the book company is something they've put together, and I have those recorded in there as well. So there's trying to think what else I've got there, but I do give a lot of talks.
All right, sounds good. And do you want to give us do you want to give us an email, maybe, or people can reach out to you to have you come speak?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
It's RBEIN.
Okay.
It's Rick Bein, but it just goes RBein, RBEIN at IU.edu.
Well, anything more we want to promote before we go out on the show, Rick?
Well, I guess I could tell some more of the stories.
If you want to give us, I'll tell you what, give us one more quick story.
Yeah. Well,
we want people to buy the book and read it, but a few tease outs are always good.
Yeah, I've had that. I told you about the camels and termites, and I had another. One of the things I had was interesting story was an anaconda. We came in contact with an anaconda. It was about 20-foot long snake, and these farmers had moved in there to this wooded area, and actually they came up the river, and they saw this clearing along the side of the river. So, we're looking for a place to start our farm. So they landed there and came in and started building their house out on the edge of this. There was a path going off into the forest, and they built their homestead along that path. As it turned out, the path was created by these peccaries, these little tiny wild pigs. They run in hordes of maybe 100 or so, and they're pretty dangerous because if they catch you in the forest, you'll become a skeleton in a very short time. But sort of like the piranha of the forest. But anyway, they began killing these piranhas. The peccaries, because they were a nuisance. They kept breaking into the house and knocking things down, and so they started killing them little by little. Then to come find out that path where they went down to the water was where they drank.
Oh wow!
And there was this anaconda hiding under the water there. Would once a month, the peccaries would come down every day to drink. Then once a month, the anaconda would reach up, pluck one of those peccaries out of the water, out of the herd, bring it in the water, drown it, and swallow it.
Wow!
And then they'd be happy. And then, as they killed the peccaries off, the anaconda didn't have any more of its normal food. But then he noticed down the stream there that the farmers had built a pig pen with the corner of it reaching into the river. And so he thought, I'm sure, maybe who was a he or a she, I don't know. But anyway, let's say it was a she. She saw that it was that looked sort of like it was just an oversized peccary. And so she crawled into the pen and between the rails, and then swallowed one of their pigs. And then when they came out in the morning, the anaconda was trapped in the pig pen. It couldn't get out.
Probably full of pig.
Exactly.
It was loaded up on pig.
It couldn't get back through the crack in the fence. So he was trapped in there. So they killed it, and so they took all kinds of parts of it. They used it for different things. Some of it was good. They said was good for medicine, whatever. And they had the skin that was left over, and they gave it to him. Actually, I paid him $10 for it. And they said, "You want to take this?" And they said, "Yeah, well, you want something for it?" And he said, "Oh." I said, "Well, $10." And, okay, we'll take it. And so I had this thing. I rolled it all up and used to put it on the back of my horse. That I had to. It was the only way to get out there was on horseback. And Peace Corps got me a horse. So anyway, we rode it back, and I kept it around. I used it in my teaching all these years, and then recently, as I retired, I'm not teaching at schools anymore. And I wanted this skin to be useful to somebody, and I noticed by rolling it up and unrolling it every time you did that, the scales would start falling off. And And so I said, well, I don't want that to happen anymore. So I found a little school in Indianapolis that had an after-school thing where they had a little museum, and they could put it up on the wall, so it's permanently stretched out.
Wow!
And so they could see it there. So that's where I left it. but I used to use. I was only about 3 years ago that I did that, and I can go back and see it if I want to, but I don't really. It wasn't. It was being destroyed the way I was using it, so I wanted to preserve it in some way.
There you go. Well, as we go out, give people your final pitch out to pick up the book and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think I welcome you to try the book, and I do have. I'm actually working on another story because I've got about 80 stories in my website at the university that I can make more books out of it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at one I call cultures of agriculture, and some others on people and tribal environments, so people how they live with the environment and how they make
mm-hmm.
things work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those stories are there, and I think you'll like the Eat or Be Eaten. It gives you a wide span of stories between South America, Papua New Guinea, Africa, and then a lot of little period times in there, like in Saudi Arabia. I spent a month there, but altogether I lived 15 years in the tropical areas, and so there's a lot of those experiences there. So it's useful for somebody who wants to go in the Peace Corps. Maybe it might chase them away.
It might. I'm not sure. I want to be bathing with the whatchamacallits and the dealios there.
Yeah,
so
we're honest. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
But I did have a story. One of my stories deals with a time in the Rocky Mountains, running into a anaconda, into a wolverine.
Wow.
A couple of wolverines were there. It was in the summer, working in the Rocky Mountain National Park. We were cleaning the trails, getting the rocks off, and shoring up the erosion problems. And as we were doing that, we were on switchbacks. And this other guy and I were working there. He was about 2 switchbacks up above me, and these 2 wolverines started loping along above him, a switchback above him. We're just going laterally, weren't paying any attention to him or me, and he thought it'd be clever to throw rocks at him. So he did that, and they stopped, and they looked at him, and they're sort of like, you can sort of read their mind, like, who are you to be molesting us with rocks?
Yeah.
And they started down the hill after him. Boy, he panicked. He threw his shovel up in the air, his only weapon, came running down by me, and I had to tackle him because he would have run off the cliff behind us. So wow. got him stabilized, and then looked around. Where are the wolverines? They were still coming. And they were looking, and I was standing there. He was sort of cowering back there, and I said, I can't run. They can certainly run faster than me. So I just lifted my shovel up in the air and my other hand and raised it up and was ready to hit them if they got any closer. Yeah. And they just turned around, and suddenly they just stopped and started running off like they were in the same direction.
Well, that's crazy.
And then I noticed this terrible smell, and I thought, my goodness, what's that about? And it turned out my colleague there had done a number in his pants.
I probably would be there too.
And he, as it turned out, I often wonder, had nothing. They left not because of they probably left because of the smell.
Smell.
Yeah.
That's a note to self. If I ever encounter like a bear or wild animal in the woods that decides it wants to eat me, go ahead and
throw your hands up in the air. You make yourself look big.
Yeah, poop your pants too. That way they're like, oh, what did you have? Taco Bell there, buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So now
no one's gonna eat that.
Yeah. So now you know what to do when you run into a wolverine.
That's I'll shit myself. I'm sure that'll happen.
Maybe the shovel thing worked. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I do notice we have a website for you called. It's your name, RICKBEIN.com.
Yeah.
So that's a place people can go to check you out.
Thank
you very much for coming on the show, Rick. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
And thanks for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. Eat or Be Eaten, out August 20th, 2024. You can find the links to the book and Rick on the ChrisVossShow.com podcast. And any future books coming up there, Rick?
Yeah, I'm going to be working on one called Cultures of Agriculture.
All right.
And a lot of, maybe have a few of these same stories in it, because a lot of them are about farming. And it's sort of how people farm within the environment. And then and those are all over the world. I'm looking at farms in New Guinea or Brazil, Africa, Iceland, even, and all these different strategies for cultivating the soil. And that's one. So I'm working on that'll be my next book, but got some on the environment, people and their environment.
Well, folks, order of the book Where Fine Books Are Sold, Eat or Be Eaten, now on August 20th, 2024. Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that's